Wow, here we are. Hello, my lovelies.
You know how many times Matt
Hello.
has started a podcast by saying, "Wow, here we are."
It's my trademark.
That's
It's
his
my trademark.
go-to, his comfort intro.
I love that.
Oh, here
Wow,
we
here we are.
are. As in, it's such a surprise that we're all here.
Here
I'm
we are
telling you, it's become my
again.
trademark intro.
Hmm
Just get a little closer to the mic.
Oh, get real close. Get real close.
Who's Mike?
Oh my god. You were the one
Hence,
who said it first.
Pence.
No.
It's not.
Hi everybody. So this what you're listening to right now is actually a pilot episode for a new podcast that we are calling Under Queer Review.
Wait,
Uh,
what?
Under
oh
Queer
god.
Review.
I didn't know we were doing a new podcast.
Fun.
Like a play on words of under peer review. Anyway,
Okay, when you have to explain it, it's no longer funny.
okay, I'm sorry. I ruined it in the first episode. We'll rethink the name of the podcast now.
We'll rebrand after one episode.
We'll
Clearly.
rebrand.
This is so much fun.
If you are a What Do the Gays Think listener and you are listening to this episode on the What Do the Gays Think podcast, don't worry, we are still continuing that podcast, but we are going to be posting these first couple of pilot episodes here on this podcast for a bit, and then we'll return to our regularly scheduled content. So this new podcast, Under Queer Review, is going to be co-hosted by the three of us that are here. So me, Pat, and Jackie. And during this podcast, we'll just be reviewing like a wide variety of queer media. We've always done these episodes of What Do the Gays Think, where we review like the latest queer content that has come out. And it almost felt like a separate entity of the show, which is why we're kind of starting this new branch of the podcast that we could take on, this queer content and review it by queer people. Let's introduce ourselves. I am Matt, obviously. My pronouns are he, him. And I love data and also queer content. Who's
Pat,
next?
Oh, well, Jackie, I was gonna let you go because now you
Well.
are officially a host of a podcast now.
Oh,
Like,
hostess with the mostess.
I love Hostess. I love their snacks.
I don't. Anyway, I'm Jackie. I'm Jackie. Pronouns they, them. I love design and queer media.
I'm Patrick. Pronouns none of anyone's business.
Okay.
And I love queer media, but I also love Hostess snacks. The donuts. Is Ring Ding one of them?
I don't know if Ring Ding is one of them.
Twinkie.
Twinkie, yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the first piece of queer media that we are going to be reviewing on this podcast?
Well, he's tall and handsome.
Just talking about Matt.
I am, yeah, actually. He causes some people trauma, and
Still talking about Matt.
it's Sandman.
Yes, the Sandman.
The Morpheus.
Yeah, adapted from Neil Gaiman's comic run of Sandman.
I didn't know it was an adaptation of a comic.
You didn't? Did you not know that until right before we were getting ready to do this?
I didn't know until I read Pat's little blurb about it that he's written here in our
A
document.
couple hours ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you know it was
Space.
adapted, or did you just?
No, I thought it was just a fun story.
Well, I mean, they're all fun stories. It's still regardless of being adapted, it's still a fun story. Doesn't it say adapted by whatever in the credits?
I'm sure it does.
I don't look at who looks at
He
the
doesn't
credits.
I do. I love
I
looking at the
do
credits
because I want to know who is involved because then I can see their other work.
Yeah.
Wow, how cute.
We know Matt's focus.
Not
Yeah.
the credits.
Sandman in
Not
episode
the
1.
credits.
Yes.
Right. So anyway,
Well, what do y'all think?
In terms of what I think it did well, I think the Vortex storyline, like the back half of that season, was probably the strongest point of it. It was the most compelling storytelling out of all of them for me. I think it did a really good job of kind of showcasing a couple of side characters that, weren't necessarily introduced in the first half. And, the story kind of revolved around them, like Rose Walker and Jed Walker and a couple of other characters. and I thought it did a really good job of telling their story, like outside of the dream, like Morpheus' storyline in general. So I think that storyline was done very well. And the diner episode, that was just a complete mindfuck for me, and it was really well done and interesting to see like all these different scenarios that were playing out. When the truth is kind of forced to come to light, you kind of see how things start to play out. I thought that was very interesting. How about you, Jackie?
I really enjoyed the overall season 1. I'm really hoping that we get a season 2, given how well this set up the world that we're exploring. I do agree with you. I think the second half of the season was more interesting, but not as necessarily as a downplay to the first half of the season, those first couple episodes, because it really helped to invite the viewer into the world that you are in and fill in kind of where we're at and kind of invite you to go along the journey of Morpheus regaining his power. And I think they did that pretty well. Culminating, yeah, with the whole diner episode and all of that. Those episodes had me on edge. So I think they did really well. What about you, Pat?
Well, in general, I mean, it was just well written, well paced, well acted. There was a lot of practical effects, which I liked, but there, of course, were a lot of non-practical effects for things they couldn't obviously make. Certain areas of the dreaming or different realms, like when they go to hell, the way certain demons or nightmares looked, rather. So basically across the board, from like a production standpoint, a writing standpoint, it was all very good. The acting was very good, especially from the guy who plays Morpheus, whose name escapes me. The supporting cast were pretty well distributed throughout the episodes, given enough screen time to develop their characters, develop their plot. I actually like the first half of the season more than the second half, because I find the first half of the season is plotted very quickly. And when you get to the second half of the season, it actually slows down because the Vortex plotline is strewn across more episodes than the first plotline, which is him regaining his freedom, regaining his trinkets. And that's the first half of the season is actually where the diner episode actually takes place. It's not in the Vortex plotline, and I found that the Vortex plotline was a little less interesting to me because of how slow it began to get. I feel like you could have either you didn't have to cut a whole episode, but you could have redistributed some time among those episodes and made them each a little shorter just to keep the pace really fast, because the first few episodes, I should say, travel through like decades and over a century of time.
Yeah.
Whereas the subsequent episodes are over the course of like either like a few days, a few weeks, or a few months.
Yeah.
But it was all good regardless. It was all lovely content. Lovely content. So hopefully they get a second season.
Fingers crossed.
Everything's crossed.
Fingers
on me.
crossed. Legs
Everything.
crossed.
Crossing streams.
Testicles.
Oh.
No, testicular torsion is really bad. You shouldn't cross your testicles.
Oh.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind next time.
Next, there shouldn't be a next time.
It's too late now. My testicles are already crossed.
It's already crossed.
Yeah,
Pretzel twist, the old pretzel twist.
It's sort of like Downward Dog, but inverted and twisted on itself. Auntie Anne's pretzel style.
Oh, I love Auntie Anne's pretzels. Oh my god.
I just had them recently. I had the cinnamon sugar pretzel bites.
You didn't save any for me?
So slap.
I wasn't with you.
For the first time I had the pretzel bites like a couple months ago when I was on like some kind of road trip.
To Maine?
No, actually I don't know where I was, but they gave life.
Oh, well. Yeah. Surprised it wasn't me.
Life, love, liberty, and
move
happiness.
On. So what do you guys think it did not do that, or not, I don't want to say didn't do well in. It did, well, yeah. Not that it failed in any regard, because I don't think it actually failed in any regard, but what do you think it could have done better? Was there aspects you wanted to see more of? Were there aspects you wanted to see less of? Characters, plot, whatever. What were on your cons list?
I don't think necessarily a con, but it did also stand out to me that the pace of the second half was slower. I think just because of how quickly the first half did go, it could have been enjoyable to see it in a slightly quicker cut.
Hmm.
But I did, again, not necessarily like a knock on it. I thought that could be interesting to see.
Yeah, actually, one of my cons is that I did not like the Morpheus centric episodes. Um,
Really?
yeah, I wasn't. I felt that out of every character in this show, Morpheus was the weakest, in my opinion, at least.
Hmm.
I get that his storyline is about him growing to be less of a grumpy character who doesn't really care about anything into being a more compassionate character. Um, but I just felt that his screen time didn't resonate with me as well as some of the other characters that we saw. Um,
Hmm.
uh, so for me, like the Morpheus centric episodes were just not that great, which is why I liked the back half of the season where they
So
focused on a different set of characters as kind of the focus.
the Sandman in the Sandman show was not it for you. The
Ah.
titular
I
character
liked
that's
a
driving the
lot of other
plot was
characters.
not it for you.
Well, there's actually a lot of series for me where that is the case. For example, She-Ra. I actually like almost all the other characters. Like I like She-Ra in general, but also all the other characters in She-Ra were more compelling for me. Because sometimes the main character you get is just like a little bit more drab or a little bit more boring and exists to drive the plot forward, which is
Hmm.
fine. That's kind of what I felt about Morpheus. Like
Avatar:
he
The
drives
Last
the plot
Airbender.
forward. Ooh.
Oh,
But yeah, he exists to drive the plot forward. I understand his development and his storyline. It was less compelling for me. I did like it. Like I'm not saying it's bad, but it was weaker for me. Um, and also another part that I thought was a little bit weak as well was like the consequences of big things that were happening. For example, the whole diner episode, it's kind of
mm,
implied that the whole world is being affected by this truth spell that's going on. But we only really see the consequences of the diner and then maybe a little bit of the outside world. But then after that, like the consequences kind of just vanish and we don't really see much about that anymore. Which I felt happened a couple of times throughout the show too. Like these big things were happening worldwide, but then we really didn't see the consequences as much, or they kind of vanished over the course of a few episodes.
yeah, even like the sleeping sickness that supposedly a lot of
Yeah,
the world is plagued with. I agree. I don't think they didn't really show much of that playing out. Besides when
Yeah.
we hear of oh gosh, her name is escaping me. The older Walker,
yeah,
um, Kincaid, where she wakes up and it's revealed that she's the only person who survived that experience. I don't think it was
And
implied
that she
before
was
then.
raped in her sleep.
Yes, I was like, wait, what? Um,
Not a fun
that
topic.
no, and then they kind of, and then it like she wasn't. Um,
Well, yeah, because she doesn't see it as that.
well, but that's not what actually happened.
Well, no, because she said that she remembers a man coming to her and then waking up and having like already given birth and shit like that. Like she has vague remembrances of desire
I thought that they
appearing as someone else.
I thought that they had some kind of like mystery, like they made a comment that made it seem like no, she was not raped. I
I
don't
I
remember now though.
I thought it was she doesn't see it as that because she had an idea of what happened that was more
Mm,
consensual, but I don't know whether or not that's actually true. Because
I
interesting.
I
mean,
mean,
if she was asleep, can it
if
really be
someone's
consensual?
unconscious,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, but back to the whole no consequences, I don't think that they're necessary. The show is not about the human world and the human beings necessarily. It's about the endless, it's about the family, it's about those that are directly connected to them. So, especially because the show skips decades, skips centuries, the consequences probably are no longer relevant, at least to the endless or those types of characters. So, for the sleeping sickness, I mean, it's relevant later on because her granddaughter is the vortex, and it was related to the fact that her grandmother was asleep or great grandmother, whatever the hell she is. Um, and then the whole diner thing. I mean, yeah, we see the news outside is bad, but I'm pretty sure Morpheus makes a comment that he has to go now fix everything that what's his name had done with his jewel.
Oh.
So he probably went around I don't know how he does it, mopping shit up,
Putting
but
everybody to sleep.
yeah, for me at least, the consequences are irrelevant because the only consequences that matter are the ones that the main characters are experiencing, which I think there were some for them at least.
That's fair. And yeah, with limited runtime, I think it is fair that they would have to prioritize that.
Yeah, because right now, if I'm not mistaken, because there's several volumes of the Sandman comic, they haven't got even after this one season covering so much time, they're not far in. There was someone
Oh,
who was
okay.
like, it's like an eighth of the way done, and I was like, or like a sixth of the way
Wow.
done with the overall plot, and I was like, shit, it's a lot of plot.
Got a lot more to go.
Slay.
Yeah. But I could be wrong, so someone please correct me if misquoting something.
You know, we'll go back and we'll edit and post, and we'll just put like
No, we will
Pat's
not.
wrong about this.
No, we
We'll just have a
won't. We
big
don't.
flashing Pat's
If
wrong.
we had an
Ignore.
editor, if anyone knows an
Ignore.
editor, that would be great.
That would
If
be
there are any
really
editors listening, give
Yeah.
us a contact.
Hit us
We
up.
need you.
Hit
We need you
hit-
now more than ever.
Hit a girl up.
Should we move on to a little more specifics, or does anyone have any more generic, general questions they'd like to ask before we move on?
No, let's go on to the more specific questions, shall we?
Oh, written by, oh my God, who wrote these beautifully eloquent, deep questions? I've never seen these before in my life. Oh my God. Anyway, so Matt
Me and Jackie
didn't
just
know-
silent.
Yeah.
Matt-
Not
well,
participating.
a little background. Matt kept telling Jackie and I that there was this Word doc and we were supposed to read it. He told us like 8 times. And then today I
did.
supplemented it with deep, hard-hitting questions, and no one cares.
I care. I reviewed them, and here we are.
Pat put
about
them
to talk
in
about
2
them.
hours before us going into this podcast episode.
Oh, Matt didn't know that this is based on a comic. Jackie, you knew, right?
I did know, yeah.
So do you think it's required to read, listen, or watch the original content of something before you view an adaptation or a sequel? Or do you
No.
think going in blind is sometimes more fun?
I think going in blind it can be more fun. I think it's down to a person's preference because I think if it is an adaptation, it is its own media entry. So for me, by definition, it should be able to stand on its own. You shouldn't need to read background material or know the comics or the ins and outs of whatever its original media was. You should be able to dive in, especially with a show like this where it's the first entry or adaptation. I shouldn't need to know anything else.
Yeah,
Matt?
I agree. I think if it's an adaptation or remake, then it should be able to stand on its own. If it's a sequel, then it depends on how the sequel is written, because some sequels can be standalone and can be viewed by themselves. But if you have a sequel like, for example, The Legend of Korra, after The Last Airbender, you could watch Legend of Korra by itself and still get the context, but it's better if you go back and watch the original because that adds value to all the recurring things that occur in Legend of Korra. So if it's a sequel, then yes. Yes.
Does it?
Yes,
I don't
does.
think you need to watch Avatar: Last Airbender.
I think
really
it adds
Korra.
nostalgic value.
I don't like nostalgia.
Okay. I do think it adds value because it adds context to some of the things that you see in Legend of Korra.
I think nostalgia is a way to just set yourself up for disappointment. Like people who don't like Hocus Pocus 2 because they don't think it's as good as the original or it's not the same as the original. I'm like, get over it. It's something new. Anyway,
well, it sounds like we might need to do a Legend of Korra episode.
we've already
done
did an Avatar
that.
episode. Someone doesn't
This
listen to the
one,
original
yes.
podcast.
I'm pretty sure it was on the episode.
So next question. How well do you think that the story or that the show handled the large time jumps that we were seeing? Because we go through like centuries of, if not decades, or decades if not centuries of content here. And how do you feel, or how would you compare some of the more long form plots that went over several episodes to those that were more self-contained in 1 or 2 episodes?
Oh my Lanta. So I think I have an opposite viewpoint to Pat here, where the episodes that had their more self-contained plots, like by themselves, I didn't find as compelling as the longer plot line that was the Vortex plot line. I don't know why, for me, that when the plot line starts and then ends within the episode, it feels to me like very rushed. I don't know. Especially when you had, for example, that episode where he's talking to that one guy who lives forever over the course of centuries and centuries of time. That particular episode I felt was, I mean, I understand what it's trying to tell in terms of Morpheus's character, but I feel like that could have been handled some other way, or maybe expanded that storyline a little bit more.
Shit on them right now.
Oh,
Jackie,
I would have liked to seen it expanded a little bit more,
right?
As opposed to just being in a self-contained episode. And that episode about death, I would have loved to see that expanded and have them go more into that character and the dynamic between him and his sister.
Right.
I just felt it was a little short. Yeah.
But don't you think that for a show that is confined to a certain episode count, they can't put too much? Because if they wanted to fit, let's say, the whole Vortex plotline, that's multi-episode arc. You can't have multiple multi-episode arcs without making a super long season.
Well,
so
yeah.
I feel like things have to be confined sometimes, especially in regards to the most recent episodes that were introduced. The one episode that's technically two different stories, the cat episode and then the Muse episode. I mean, the Muse episode is lovely, and so is the cat one, and they're both self-contained and they're both within the same episode. I think it's that they made me sad about a cat that watched its or felt its children dying from miles away in a river being drowned in a bag. Jackie? Dead cats?
Tell me how you feel.
That was sad. That was so sad. That Dream of a Thousand Cats, I think it's called, that first half. That was very sad. I thought they did it very well. And fun fact, they animated that doing a combination of traditional oil painting and 3D like animation, which gave it kind of that unique look.
Love that.
But back to the pacing of it, I think that they handled overall the pacing really well. I liked how they jumped around. I liked how the episodes had both self-contained plots, some of which were kind of just stationary moments in time, like the death episode, versus kind of spanning years or decades of time. I think it made it interesting for me to kind of have these jumps and then stops, and you watch a bit and then you jump again to a more forward point in time. I felt like it always held my attention and made me look forward to the characters that we would see. Like the first episode where they jump, they have the first time lapse of like 10 years. I forget.
Oh, yeah, he's trapped and he sees the older version of the guy. Yeah.
Oh, it's like a century, right?
Well, because he sees him as a kid first, and when the father
when he's like 8,
and then he sees him as like a teenager or like a young adult, and then he sees him as like a man, and then an old man.
Yeah.
I thought even introducing the initial jump was really well and kind of helped set us up for what the future episodes could be like in the pacing of that.
Oh, I loved the setup episode, actually. That was a really good one.
It was really good.
Lovely. Anything else about pacing?
No.
What was your opinion, Pat?
I thought the pacing was great. I liked the combination of long form and short form. I think some of the best stuff was shorter, and then some other really good stuff was longer. I mean, it was just all around lovely.
Did you have any, since you were a fan of the short form stuff, did you have any short form episodes that were your favorite?
The Muse episode. I mean, the diner is a single plot basically, but the Muse is also great, especially because it's even shorter, and it just the peeling of layers of how sadistic a man can become, ownership of a woman, ownership of like an ability to create content, basically. It's just really fucked up.
Yeah.
But well shot, well done, well acted. And then he then gets, he gets fucked up at the end. He can't remember anything. I love.
Yeah. it didn't dawn on me the implication of rape and abuse until I actually looked up something about the episode
Oh, yeah.
afterwards.
Oh,
Yeah.
was it
And I was
implied
like,
that she was raped too?
I don't think they actually show it, but I was reading something, I think it was on Collider, that basically said since she does not give her gifts willingly, they resort to rape and sexual abuse.
Physical,
Yeah,
yeah.
in order to,
Take them.
yeah, and essentially take the gifts. And then I was like, oh shit.
Oh,
I
I picked up on the physical abuse. I didn't know about the sexual one.
mhm.
I mean, it's just a hop skip away. I think
Yeah.
it's if not if it wasn't legitimately in the story, it's definitely metaphor for
Mhm.
abuse and situations where one person in a quote unquote relationship is basically a prisoner to the
Mhm.
other one.
Agreed. I
Uh,
think my favorite short form episode though was probably the death one. I thought that was really nicely done. I really enjoyed that one. For some reason that one really
When she picked
resonated
up that
with me.
baby,
Oh
she
my
picked up that baby,
god,
Oh
and
my
she
she's
said,
so
god.
tender.
and she looks at it and goes, "Sometimes that's all there is."
Yes.
And then it
That
was
was so
Crying.
dead.
sad.
And then
So
it was
sad.
Crying.
dead.
Crying.
It was
Oh my
it,
god.
and then when like the old man realizes that she's death,
Oh
like
yes.
because she's like, "Who are you?" And she's like, "It's okay, don't worry." And he's like, "Oh, but I
Oh.
don't want to go yet." And she's like,
Mm.
"I know." And then takes that old man.
Yeah.
She
Ah.
gathers the
When
souls.
that
But
kid gets hit by
also
the car.
yeah, that was so funny though. That was so fucking funny. When he
The
was like,
man
"You're
who
gonna have your longer?"
drowns.
That
Yeah.
part was sad.
She's like, "I'll see you
I'll
later.
see you
Don't worry."
soon. Don't worry about it.
You know she loves saying that to people. "I'll see you soon."
Oh yeah, I'll see you
Wink.
soon.
But does that imply that she knows when people are gonna die too? Like she can
Yeah.
I
see
think so.
somewhat into the
Yeah.
future?
I think it
Wild.
Yeah. Not like a future events in terms of like probably major things, but individual lives. I'm sure she'd be
Yeah,
like, "All right, you
like
got it. You got a year left."
looks up your your date. She's got like a whole record book probably.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
One more comment on pacing real quick.
Mm.
You know what? I had a comment I completely forgot about when we started talking about death. All right, I remember my comment now.
Oh, here it is.
Okay.
So I did like that short form episode, like the death part. But when it comes to like the overarching story that's going on, so you start in the beginning. Morpheus needs his little trinkets to like get his power back. But then there's like a 2 episode like gap between him getting his trinkets back and then like the Vortex storyline really starting up. And it's like those middle 2 episodes where he's just kind of like, I don't know what to do now. Felt kind of misplaced to me. I love the episodes. It's the like centuries long episode where he talks to the guy over and over again, and then the death episode. It just felt like a little bit misplaced in the
Oh.
overarching story.
I forgot that those two were placed there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more for. I think the first few episodes establish who he is as like or initially who he was, who he became in his captivity, and then his journey to get back his goods, basically sort of on a revenge path.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he finally does, and he has that conversation with Death, she's kind of like, "Here, let me take you through a day of my life, so you can see how these people live, who you seem to be so above." And you can realize like the beauty in their lives and how important they are, and how like a few times in this series they talked about how we only exist because these people exist. So I think those episodes, especially him speaking to that man over the centuries and centuries, to even though he had lived so long, he still didn't want to die because there's always new things to experience. Those were really just to sort of build his character into someone who would be compassionate enough about people that when the Vortex plotline happened, his initial instinct is probably just to first ignore it until he verified it was real, but then end it. But then by the end of it, it's because he's grown as a person, he's able to see her as more than just a destructive force and try to save her. And then, of course, the grandma sacrifices herself. So I think they're very low key for sure, but I think it's good because you need time to really develop him as a character. So before then, he just kind of walks around brooding, getting all of his goods back.
No, I agree with like what it was trying to do, but as I was watching it and I was going through the show myself, those 2 episodes, I was just thinking like, okay, like this is cool and all, but like what's what's the purpose? What's the goal? What are we trying to achieve? And
Matt,
obviously,
you're too horny for data. You're too horny for
What?
binary results. You are looking for
I want the
an
ones and the zeros.
Yeah, you are.
where did
want the
data
end
come into this?
outcome. You said you love
Sometimes
data.
sometimes it's just the journey.
It's the journey.
You know, I feel like I especially like with shows like this who aren't afraid to sort of meander a little bit because I don't know, like I know like some people they love action films because they love constant movement, they love constant stimulation, they love constant whatever. But I like things that are long form or slow form, I should say, even if they're not very long. I don't know, I just appreciate it sometimes.
What do you think, Jackie?
I think I agree with Pat. I think it was now remembering where they were placed, given the context of the first kind of half. I do think it was a nice way to emphasize Dream's journey and give him a moment to breathe, to kind of realize I followed this revenge path and now what do I do with myself? I think that was interesting for us to see how he grew given his relationship with his sibling, and also it set us up for more episodes. I want more depth, and also to realize he needs people.
Same.
And he had a friend in Hob
Yeah,
the guy who
Hobgoblin.
can't Hobgoblin, the guy who can't die. That was sweet.
Yeah. But can we talk about actual queer stuff now? Let's talk about queer things.
Let's do
This
it.
this is a queer podcast. Skipping these two questions here. Lucifer. So Lucifer is the Lord of Hell, a fallen angel, played by the lovely Gwendolyn Christie, who to the best of my knowledge identifies as a cis woman. Correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've heard, she's a cis woman.
I think so.
Neil Gaiman, or Gwendolyn Christie, has been quoted that Neil Gaiman spoke to her and said that he saw angels as having no gender. So Lucifer is played rather androgynously, and Gwendolyn Christie was happy to play androgynous. Do you think that they should have cast a non-binary or trans actor for the role? Sort of like with Desire, who's played by the non-binary actor Mason Alexander Park? Or do you think that Gwendolyn Christie, brought, or maybe their androgyny was not important to the character per se, and it was more just Gwendolyn Christie, the actor, was good enough to really portray Lucifer. And what did you think about Lucifer? Did you like the character? Matt, why are you smiling?
I just wanna say real quick that I'm sorry. I was Googling Gwendolyn Christie's pronouns. And as I was Googling that, a little blip came up in the computer as it was like, oh, I can't find it. I'm sorry if that came through in the podcast audio. I apologize to all the listeners.
I didn't hear anything.
Well, it would come through on my desktop audio. That's why.
Is it she, her?
That.
Is she a she, her?
I actually didn't see anything about pronouns, so I'm assuming it's still she, her.
It's slay. So my question still stands on two legs.
Two cishet legs. I don't know. It's hard to answer this in a way because what happened, and now knowing that it was perhaps intended to be more androgynous, I thought her performance was wonderful, and I did feel that the character was played in an androgynous manner. I still, to me, it read maybe a little bit more feminine leaning, but not necessarily playing to feminine stereotypes or quote unquote.
Look at my
media
big
pitfalls.
tits. Oh, I'm tripping over
my
them. Oh my god, they spilled out.
I'm sorry, I can't see you down there over my fucking rack. Yeah. So I don't feel like they stepped into any of those pitfalls. I mean, Pat's still dead. Her costumes and designs were amazing. I wanted her to step on everyone. So I thought that Gwendolyn
over
Christie,
my big rack.
You're down there. You're just a little guy. I'm all the way up here. Can you imagine her looking down on those demons?
On Mount
and just
Tit.
being
Isn't she
her
very
looking down
tall?
at the demons.
Well,
She's tall in real life.
is
She's
tall,
like
yeah.
6'3" in real life.
Yeah.
And I
Like
think
looking
yeah.
like looking down from the balcony.
Yeah, I
Just being
think
like, I can't see you.
Morpheus is also, the actor is also tall, but they made her taller if she wasn't already. So she's like super tall. and he is still tall as an actor, so it's like she was, she felt very imposing. And the outfits,
I mean,
she had like the more gowny outfit, then she was like in the red, and then the black leather fetish suit, basically, and the wings.
yes, God's
So
plan.
yeah, do we care that Gwen Christie is apparently not
Clap
non-binary?
if you care.
Okay.
Honestly, like, does not bother me. Because I think at least it wasn't given to a straight man, the role. So
Ooh.
if it were, then I would care. But I'm really content with Gwendolyn Christie's performance. It was given to a woman. She boots the house down, Slay Queen Gaga yassed it. So
Here we go. Here we are.
so that's just me.
Matthew.
I like Gwendolyn. She's great. I do think that I always think this in general. Like, it's always better if you're gonna have a queer character of some sort than have a queer character play them. I always think that's the better option, but that's not always what happens. For a variety of different queer media that we consume. At the end of the day, I'm glad it exists, and I'm glad that Gwendolyn played it the way that she did, because it was amazing. But again, I would have probably preferred if, an actual non-binary or, agender person did play that character.
Right. So, also related to this, so I was doing a little digging because I wanted to really know whether or not in the comic Lucifer was more androgynous, and I think they were in the Sandman comic. There is a Lucifer spin-off comic, and from what I've seen on that, Lucifer presents more male. And in the Netflix series Lucifer, which is based on the spin-off comic by Neil Gaiman, or the spin-off comic might have been by him or someone else, but it's based on the Sandman Lucifer. He was played by Tom Ellis, and he was a man. A man.
I had no idea
male.
that was connected
to... It's the same Lucifer. It's not the same in that these adaptations are not connected, but in terms of the foundational comics, they are the same.
Gotcha.
So
interesting.
That show... No shade to that show. It's not as good as Sandman, but it is fun. It's a fun show. Like, it's not... It's just, like, kind of pulpy and fun. And I love Tom Ellis, and I thought he did a fun job. He's, like, this suave, sexy man, tall. But anyway, yeah, I don't think it matters. I don't think it really matters in this case, because Lucifer is a fictitious creature thing. Angels don't really exist. Fallen angels don't exist. And, I don't know. It also wasn't important for the character, whereas we can move on to Desire. It's important that Desire's character is androgynous, because Desire represents both the desires of male presenting people, female presenting people, anyone's desire. So it makes sense that they can swap between those sort of characteristics. Whereas for Lucifer, Lucifer is not a representation of a gender or some sort of thing like that. It's just a fallen angel, and I don't really care. But I love Gwendolyn Christie. I love her performance.
Generally speaking, because I wanna step back for a second about
you're sitting
the entire about the entire show. The entire show's queer representation. Do we think that it was a good, generally speaking, representation of the queer or LGBTQ community in general?
Yes.
I said in general like 5 times, but yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was not unhappy with...
Yeah.
As opposed to something that happened recently on House of the Dragon.
Oh.
Which I'm very happy about.
Talk about that on the other podcast. I loved it. I thought that it was a very casual, like, display of queerness throughout the whole show. It was sprinkled throughout. It was not necessarily made the center point of any storyline. But it was nice seeing, like, casual representation in, like, a fantasy setting like this. It was like a breath of fresh air compared to, like, other media we've seen, like Game of Thrones, for example, where
what it smelled like.
They had representation, but it was like, people were dying because of it, or it was played up too much or something like that. You know what I mean.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I'm just thinking about House of the Dragon, and I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But yeah, I liked it across the board. I love John Cameron Mitchell, who is in the Vortex
That's who I was
plotline.
literally looking up because I couldn't
John
remember
Cameron
his
Mitchell
name.
is this lovely gay man who is the basis for Victor from Yuri on Ice, by the way.
Ooh, wow.
The artist said that their inspiration for Victor's design was John Cameron Mitchell, and
That's amazing.
I love that.
and he's a great performer. He did Hedwig and the Angry Inch. He wrote it. He originated the role for Hedwig. He did the movie for it. He did the revival for it. I saw him. Lovely, lovely. I know someone who was contacted by him on Grindr, so that's even more fun. No, I'm sorry to John Cameron Mitchell if you didn't want anyone knowing, but then again, it is a public app, so everyone knows. Anyway, yeah, I love him. So I was so happy to see him, especially when he was doing drag in his dreams.
Oh my God,
Plus
that
in
was
real
so
life,
great.
it was
Ooh.
it was lovely.
So here's a question then. Out of all the queerness that we saw within, this is actually not on the sheet, but out of all the queerness that we saw, since there was a lot of it in Sandman, what would you say was your favorite depiction?
Joanna Constantine. Because she could
Probably.
fucking kill me.
Oh.
She could
Oh,
exercise my whole.
True.
She could exercise my whole.
My God.
Send it
Yeah.
right to hell.
She was fun. That was, you know what, that was a good example of another standalone that I was like, is this character going to come back? Because like, wait, that was it. I want more.
She's
Yeah,
lovely.
She's lovely.
I would
also,
love to see her come back.
Also, Death. I'm counting that as queer because there's no anything in Death.
Damn.
Also Lucifer. Well, I guess less direct. Well,
I mean,
I mean,
maybe.
in the eyes of some, I am a sinner. So,
Oh,
Mm?
but what about for you guys?
Joanna Constantine. I mean,
Well,
I feel like.
Did
Oh.
you say yours?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, I. Who did you say he was, Pat? The drag queen?
John Cameron Mitchell.
Probably him. I liked his performance a lot in that Vortex
He's great.
storyline.
Yeah.
I think it was a bit sad with Joanna Constantine because her girlfriend is dead.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was so sad.
I
but
think girl
I-
call me.
But seeing because Joanna Constantine is related to it's this version of John Constantine, which is a DC character, which is the guy who
Oh.
played by Keanu Reeves in the film. Which, by the way, that film's getting a sequel, and I'm so excited. Speaking of tangent, that film had Tilda Swinton playing an androgynous angel in it as well.
What movie?
Constantine.
Oh.
Yeah. But anyway, back to Joanna. She's an empowered woman who's like
is.
dominates her quote unquote field of like demonology. She just comes in, she fucks shit up, and then she has problems, obviously. She has a tortured
Got a lot of
past.
problems.
She's like a kind of like a three-dimensional character, which is great to see. I assume she's a lesbian, but she could be bi or pan, but so far it looks like she might be more of a lesbian. I don't know if they specified. But
I
having
thought
a
it was
three-dimensional
implied that she had dated men in the past as well.
a three-dimensional queer woman, we love to see it. No matter what she is, I'd love to see it.
Just rolling. Right.
Well, no, because
I agree.
you know,
I agree. Three-dimensional queer woman.
I'm not
And
gonna
she
self-identify for her.
exercises demons. But not her own. But not her past.
Not her
demons.
own past demons. No.
But other demons, she does. We love to see it. We love to see any type of empowered woman.
She had a little
in the-
sultry moment with Dream, and I was like, "Are they gonna kiss?"
I
They did.
know.
Oh.
But I didn't want them to. But I.
Oh, I
picked
did.
up on
I
that.
want
didn't.
him. I want him and her to just mess each other up.
I want
Yeah.
Morpheus to be asexual. I don't want to see that.
Well, we already know he's
Ah,
not.
He's not.
Oh, he's
but I,
not?
like.
Oh
Remember that
wait,
woman?
yeah. The woman in in hell.
Well, also the Muse, who we had a child
Oh,
with.
the Muse too. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
he's
remember now.
dead.
Yeah, the child's dead, and that's why they haven't
Child's
spoken
dead.
in centuries.
Yeah. I brought this up to both of you, but when Morpheus just randomly changes race after looking at that woman in that one episode, what happened there? I'm still confused about that.
Well, it's because it was a past life. So the woman was someone he met, and he probably presented himself in a way that she would recognize. Because who knows what his original form looked like? I doubt it was a white man, but she's obviously someone he knew probably centuries ago, probably in a different country, probably in a different age. So he probably, when meeting her, presented similar to whatever kind of group she's from.
And that's why he had a different name.
Yeah, so when
She
he
calls
when
him
he
a different
greets her, he wants her to see who he was. So he, changes it up.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. It was funny though. I was like, wait, what? And I was like, oh right.
I was like, what's going on here?
For a second, I was like, wait, what? Who is this?
Pulling the race
Where am
card.
I was like, wow, blackface in this show? How did this happen?
We touched on Desire. Let's go back to Desire.
Yeah.
What did you all think of Mason Alexander Park's portrayal? That's probably the most prominent queer performance, I think, besides John Cameron Mitchell as a drag queen. I mean, their role, even though they only had like literally an episode's worth of time, if not a little bit over an episode's worth of time, it just left an indelible mark on me.
We know. Yeah.
I wanted more.
Hopefully we get a second season. Them rolling over on their little chair.
Oh, their little chair.
And they have the little cat ears and the tail.
Yep.
And he's like, you're always welcome in my chambers, because he lives in a heart, because he's Desire. He lives in that huge body that looks like him, or them, I should say. I mean, it's just lovely.
It was really good. It was a very strong performance. I'm looking forward to hopefully more.
I want to see them more. I want to see them more.
Wait, sorry, what?
TikToks. They have great. They're on TikTok. They're great.
Okay.
They're also a great singer, and they also performed a Hedwig song with John Cameron Mitchell on stage. They both sang together, and I was like, I want to sing with John Cameron Mitchell.
Just like between takes, between.
No, they were doing a show.
Oh.
And then John Cameron Mitchell was there, and then came on stage, if I remember correctly, and they both sang a Hedwig song.
Oh shit.
Yeah, they have a lovely voice, and so does John Cameron Mitchell, obviously.
Oh damn. Okay.
Oh dip.
Oh dip.
Oh.
I'll have to look at those TikToks.
So great non-binary character. We don't have enough non-binary characters. I feel
agree.
Like out of the queer community, they're on the low end of representation. You got like gay white men, gay men of color,
a dozen.
White lesbians, lesbians of color, and then the trans non-binary ace, like two-spirited. The rest of the just kind of float down to nothingness. So it's great to see. And their voice, that deep, sultry, melodic sound reverberating in my hole.
Sorry, wait, what?
In your hole?
Put the speaker right up to my sphincter.
I was just about to say that's where you put the fucking.
Why can't gay people just speak normally?
The way he says, like, what is it that you desire? As he's like just staring up at Dream, then Dream pulls him by the hair, and
we know what Pat.
They should be fucking. They should be fucking. I mean, they're siblings, but they're not.
I know.
Incest?
They're not like blood.
You watch Game of Thrones, yet you're upset with incest.
That's the point. You're supposed to be upset with incest. That's the whole thing.
You're supposed to be rooting for it. Oddly enough,
House the Dragon.
Oh,
all the fans want them to fuck. They want that everywhere.
Oh my god!
What is that code for?
Fucking, I don't know.
Gay sex? Gay like?
No, not gay. It's this. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well.
Uncle and niece, and I'm like, oh.
Next question. What was y'all's favorite moment from this piece of media? Favorite moment?
I mean, the sequence where Death is taking Dream throughout their day and just reaping souls, but it's the way she describes it as being like I don't know, like how she sees her job as such like a blessing where she gets to provide these people with comfort at the end. And it's just so sad and so sweet. I don't know. Even though it was about death, it was a very, I don't want to say light, but it was a much more compassionate, sincere moment, even though everyone's dying in that episode, basically.
Yeah. No, the compassion of that episode was really profound. I think that was really good.
Yeah.
I think that's probably, I think that could be one of my favorite moments.
Copycat. God damn it.
Well.
Jackie can't think on their own.
Ouch! You know what moment was really sad? But then also that I really enjoyed was the Dream giving back the gargoyle egg, because that was so sad when he had to take back when he had to take Gregory, I think. It was very sad. And then very sweet.
Within less than an episode, I started caring about an imaginary creature, and then it was sad when it died.
I knew as soon as I saw that creature, I was like, this creature's gonna get killed. As soon as they introduced it on screen, I was like, it's gonna.
That thing
It's
is
too
going to
cute.
die. It's going to
It's too
die.
cute.
And Cain and
Don't
Abel
die.
loved it too much. They have
They
to
loved
get
it
it.
too much.
And then
Yeah.
Cain killed Abel repeatedly.
Well, I mean, they just fucking go back and forth on
Seeing
that.
all those grave markers was so funny.
Just bury him in the same pit. Why are you just ruining the land?
No, why are you just constantly digging up new dirt?
It's okay. It's the dream realm. There's probably infinite land. My favorite
Emerald's
moment,
brilliant.
I think, was when Morpheus brought back that one nightmare into a dream.
The woman or the woman presenting one.
Yeah,
What's their name?
Oh,
I forget.
They had wings like a butterfly.
Yeah, it was so
yes,
sweet.
when he remakes her, that was very sweet. And also the other dreamer nightmare, the Glenn one, when he's
Emerald
the old
Green?
man. Yes, yeah, the guy
Oh.
who's in the attic, and when he's speaking to Rose Walker, says, "I hope you come and find me and spend time in my glen, or whatever it is, and enjoy the shade of my trees," and then just fucking erupts into birds and butterflies and trees. That was very, very sweet.
That's how I want to go.
That's how I want to go too. Yeah, honestly,
Yeah.
have me do that.
I love Stephen Fry, who plays Emerald Green.
Yes.
He's an amazing. He's gay. Gay.
Gay.
He's gay. He's gay.
Gay.
For those of you who don't know, he also played a gay man in V for Vendetta, and he played a lovely gay man. And y'all should watch that film because it's great.
I haven't seen that
Oh.
yet.
Matt, what was the most profound moment for you?
I just said it, dearest, was when he changed that nightmare into a dream.
Oh, I wasn't listening. Shit.
Oh,
I
No,
thought
I was. I just forgot.
Yeah, you were because you
You did.
commented on it. Okay, anyway.
The diner episode is probably the most iconic episode this season, I think. At least I would say so. What do you think made it so engrossing and captivating? If you had to narrow it down to like a few things, obviously. Like,
I think the reason that as it started catching me off guard when like everyone started fucking basically.
that's pretty late in the episode.
that's like
the end. That's like the last thing to happen.
Matt. The
No, then
first
they
40
start
minutes
killing
was
each
like,
other.
What's going on? And then the fucking starts, and he's like, "There's something happening."
I was
here.
like, wait,
Weird.
what is going on? No, because I knew what was happening and I understood the premise, but then like it started just getting real wild. They started fucking, then they started killing each other, and I was like, okay, what's happening here?
When the man tells the woman that he fucks her son,
I had to like. I think I had to rewind to make sure that I heard that right. I was like,
he goes
excuse
up
me?
to his room and
Yes.
plows and then lets him plow him. And I was like,
sometimes, and he's good at it.
And he's good at it.
He's in detail. Oh, he's good at it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I was very nervous at first because I also forgot that this kid was an adult and not a child, and I was like, oh no.
yeah, he's
I did
lived-
too.
yeah.
I was like, oh, we've
No,
crossed into
he's
some
an
different
adult.
territory.
He's-
But yeah,
he's an
he
adult.
was he was
But-
an adult.
I was like, that's hot. Telling the woman that likes you that not only are you not interested, you don't like her, you fuck her son regularly and he fucks you.
Why can't gay people just talk normally?
Why can't gay people just say what they mean?
Oh, he did. He said in
He
plain
did.
English. Let me tell you right
He
now.
did say what he
I
meant.
fuck your son and your son fucks me, and that was it.
Sometimes
He did say it.
sometimes.
He
We
did
want
say
on
that.
record, only sometimes. I think what made me so nervous going into that episode is that we already saw how unhinged he that he was. So when he goes into a diner just filled with people going about their lives, I was like, oh, we're in for some tomfoolery. I think I started feeling especially uncomfortable when I think it was at this point when he uses the stone to make them reorder the food for the couple that was celebrating their anniversary, who had a really fucked up relationship.
Mhm.
And
Oh yeah.
that part I was just like, ooh. My first thought when that happened was that he was going to kill the couple by just force feeding them, by forcing them to constantly relive that moment and eat. And I was
Jesus.
like, this is gonna get dark. Not that it didn't, but in a different
Oh no.
way.
Jackie
it
should
got-
write a show. They would
Oh,
come up with some
God.
sadistic
Gluttony.
shit.
Fucking nightmares.
Yeah, I think for me, like 10 minutes in, when it didn't change locations or didn't change time periods, I was like, okay, we're staying here.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the couple showed up, I was like, okay, now it's about to get wild. And then it just
Yep.
kept getting more wild. And then it kept getting, and then the lesbian stuff happened. And I was like,
Yes.
okay. And then the guy started sucking the other guy in the kitchen. And I was like, okay.
Okay.
Okay. And then the girl, the wife was fucking the young dude. And I was like, okay, so
Yeah.
everyone's having sex. It's very hedonistic. And then the knives and
Came out.
the burning of the hands and the burning of the papers. And
Yeah.
it just escalated. And at this point in the show, it's still early on overall in the season, so the pacing was still really fast. So I was like, oh my god, they're like blowing through this plot line. Because by the end of it, of course, Morpheus shows up and he's like, you gotta knock this shit out.
Yeah.
You can't keep doing this. And then
you gotta stop.
basically puts him to sleep forever. So I don't know. I was just so any sort of what are they called? They're like episodes where they only have one location. There's like a name for it, like bottle episodes. Any sort of any time you have an extended period of time in one location, cramped, a small amount of cast, it's
Magic
beautiful.
can happen.
Beautiful art.
Amazing.
I think on actually a queer representation note, I really like how, if I'm remembering correctly, they inverted the expectation about the lesbian couple when she, I think at one point feels judged for her relationship, and you almost are led to believe that it's because she's gay, or that was my impression, but then it turns out that the waitress essentially judges or has opinions about the relationship not for it being queer, but for the fact that she feels like the one character deserved better. I thought that was
like, she's not good for you. She's not good for you. You need something else in your life.
I felt that too, Jackie. That's how it came off to me at first.
Okay, great. Yeah, I thought that was nice.
I thought homophobia in my diner.
Homophobia.
In my diner, I'll burn the place down, and then I did.
And then I did. Yeah. So I have one more question here.
Yeah.
As of now, no second season confirmed. Neil Gaiman talked about it. It was like, it's up to Netflix. How will they determine whether it'll get picked up again, viewership, whatever. It was highly reviewed, highly rated, and in the top like 10 for several weeks, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's really going to come down to probably production costs, because this show, with its visuals, probably costs a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm optimistic it'll get a second season. Are you optimistic? And what would you like to see in a second season? Second serving?
I'm optimistic it will. I think that it would be beneficial for Netflix to invest in more high quality pieces. Because I feel like Netflix tends to just throw money at shit productions and shit shows and storylines.
Name them. Name them now.
A lot of animes that are like Netflix originals.
Give us a name.
Name drop. Name drop.
It will come back with the shows that I think Netflix made mistakes in investing in. I think it would be good for Netflix to have more heavy hitting production pieces in its portfolio. So I'm optimistic.
Matt?
Yeah, I also think it'll get a second season. It worries me a little bit because we have seen a couple of queer shows get cut recently. But I did think that Sandman performed very well outside of the fact that it had a lot of gay in it. Like gay is not the centerpiece of Sandman. Like Sandman is a story in and of itself, and that's why I think that it will get a second season.
Yeah, because this is not marketed. I'm sure this does not fall heavily under the LGBTQ tag. Maybe you could find it, but it'll not be the top one you find. Because honestly, if you think about it, Lucifer, the Endless, any sort of mystical creature that's queer, I'm not saying I'm discounting them, but when you talk about queer characters, the human queer characters, there's only a few, and they don't actually spotlight and take the story that much. So it's pretty It's not light on the queer, but it's not like heavy on it. It's just like a smear of
I
queer.
think it's a happy medium.
Schmear of queer. That should have been the podcast title.
No, that's the third podcast where we do food-related gay stuff.
Love that. Love that.
Trademarking it right now. No one else do schmear queer or queer schmear or schmear queer.
Schmear queer.
I had one other. Oh fuck! What was I about to say? Right. This one show in one season did more for queer representation than Stranger Things has done in 4. This is not a question. This is a statement of fact.
It is.
You're right.
And I understand that Stranger Things is not a queer show, but neither is Sandman. And Stranger Things has apparently 2 queer characters, one of which has been identified and known. The other one, fakely known about. I'm not asking for discussion. I just want it to be known that Stranger Things are on notice. If the next season we don't get confirmation that he's gay and that he gets a happy ending, or that Maya Hawke's character doesn't get a happy ending, I will be upset.
I agree with that.
I live. Facts.
Yeah, facts.
Last question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this piece?
I would give it 9 grains of sand out of 10.
I would also give it a 9. I think it was really chef's kiss.
I'm going to give it a 7.5.
Matt really just did not like this show.
He didn't like Morpheus.
How is 7.5? Hang on. How is 7.5 not liking the show?
Isn't that like a C or a B minus?
I don't like grading systems like that. I don't like school grading systems like that. 75% out of 100 is really good.
Okay, so what's the 25 you didn't like?
Morpheus.
But he doesn't. Do you think Morpheus constitutes 25% of the show?
I mean, we're talking overall production, overall everything.
Yeah, and a 10 out of 10 would be perfect. 10 out of 10 would be perfect.
Well, no, we're not. No one's given 10 out of 10.
Why are we using this stupid scoring system if none of us even like it? If we all have our grievances, we shouldn't be doing this.
All right, next time maybe we won't. Anyway, 7.5 out of 10 I think is really good.
Okay. Is 7.5 really good?
Wait, what would you give Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Avatar: The Last Airbender is probably like an 8 or 9.
So what is that? Is that really, really good? Is it great? Is it amazing?
It's great.
Interesting.
Well, okay. I wouldn't say it's a 10 out of 10 because it's not perfect.
Well, no, I'm not saying for you to give it a 10 out of 10.
No.
Then what were you expecting me to say there then?
I'm just surprised it was 7.5. I assumed you'd be like 8 to
8 or
9.
9. Yeah, that's what I
7.5 is only 0.5 away from 8.
This is why we're not using this, apparently.
Yeah, well, in a 10-point scale, 0.5 is actually a hefty amount.
It's 5%. Or wait.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's 5%. I think I lied.
I don't know. I don't do math.
I don't do math either.
Yes, you do. You do it on a daily basis, I'm sure.
That's true.
You know what I do on a daily basis?
Suck dick.
No,
so
not daily.
Spray plants, but
not on a daily basis. Yeah. I was gonna say watch content that we're gonna be talking about week after every other week after every other week, every month. We don't know exactly when these are coming out. We don't even have. This is the first one.
This is the pilot. It's the pilot.
Yeah.
This is a pilot.
Can be kind of ad hoc. We're figuring out the space that we are presenting.
Listen though, if the listener liked this type of content, listener liked this type of content, stick around. We're gonna release another one next week, the second pilot episode. Where should we spoil what we're gonna talk about next week?
Go for it. Give him a tease.
Jack, you look like you were gonna.
Surprise. I think let it be surprise.
Okay, we won't spoil it then.
Yeah, I think let it be surprise.
What if they don't stick around? What if the listener would only stick around if they knew what the next one was because they have an attachment to it?
They'll see it when it comes out.
Let's say unsubscribe.
If you're offensive enough, yeah.
Well, look who's on the podcast now.
All right, well, we'll be talking about a fun gay anime next. That way I'm not spoiling it.
But is it gay? That'll be the real question.
We'll figure it out in next episode, will we?
Wow.
But then we'll release a third one the week after that, and then from there we will be releasing episodes on a monthly basis.
If they want a hint, we already talked about it on this episode. So you can go back and scroll through this
Figure it
episode
out.
and figure
Figure
out
it
when we
out.
dropped it.
Spoilers. All right, that's it. So thank you, everybody. If you are not a What Do the Gays Think listener, go ahead and check out our other podcast, which is What Do the Gays Think, in which we are currently releasing episodes bi-weekly. That's hosted by me and Pat, and Jackie is also frequently a guest. Also, we do stream on Twitch. Me and Pat co-host the What Do the Gamers Think stream. That's GAYMERS. And
we certainly do.
And Jackie also has a stream as well. Jackie, you want to plug yourself?
Yes, you can find me on Twitch at Jackie_the_bananas, and I frequently stream with the lovely Gamers channel. So come by, watch us play shenanigans in Valheim, Overwatch 2, and Phasmophobia.
Plug yourself. What is this, a weekday night for me?
And yeah, we also have a Discord. It's called Pride Empire. If you click on the link in the description, you can go ahead and join it. And that's it for Under Queer Review.
Did you get the Twitter?
That's a good point. Also, follow us on Twitter at WDTGT Podcast. Or follow Jackie at King_Jaqueen.
JAKWEEN.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that's it for the podcast. I am Matt.
I am being stepped on by Gwendolyn Christie as Lucifer.
I'm taking my speaker system. I'm getting a new Bose speaker. I'm gonna crank that shit to max volume, play Desire Scene right up to my open hole. Patrick.
Oh my god.
Great.
You know you're always welcome in my chambers. He meant his booty hole.
Oh my god.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.